This is the CBC Evening News. The Michaelmas term started off this morning with a steady flow of students into the Fairchild Street bus terminal for their free ride to school. But there may be a price to pay for stragglers. If two ministers have their way, there will be a deadline for children to get to school. If they don't, they will have to pay their own way. The details from Kishmar Singis, who was in the terminal for this first day of school.
From as early as 7, students filed into the Fairchild Street terminal queuing to catch the bus. Bus availability was up with about 200 of them on the roads, and the lines quickly disappeared. The Ministers of Education and Transport were on hand in the terminal, along with a team of officials to witness the operations. They have given it the thumbs up.
We had one or two students from Princess Margaret here this morning, just about 2 or 3 I saw. 1 or 2 from St. George, 1 or 2 from Dighton Griffith. So they were not in any large numbers, which I'm pleased about. And we did speak to some to understand their reality. And some of those we spoke to are not in the group that I previously spoke about. They just had genuine issues. 1 or 2 from First Form who now have to understand the dynamics of movement, of what time they have to leave home, what buses they have to take.
The lingering problem of delays loomed for other passengers as school children were given first priority.
When children are going to school, you don't get the bus to get home in the evening, nor you ain't going to get them to go to school, because like when the evening you can't bus stand, you're going to be in here from like 3:15 till minutes to 6, which is not nice.
Because I had to leave the ZR stand and come here, and over in the ZR stand is real chaos, and out here is empty now. So I here waiting, see if I get one.
This morning was okay for me to get into town. It was okay for me this morning, so I had no problems yet for the first day of school, so I know what's going to happen later.
The two ministers are also working together in an effort to stamp out tardiness among school children. In this regard, consideration is being given to a cut-off time, after which the students will not be allowed to ride free on the buses. Minister Jones says government is concerned about the impact lateness could have on students.
We know that the later a child gets to school, the more difficult it is for that child to study. Studying takes place better in the morning period up to lunch, and then in the afternoon, because the children are tired of stuff, you don't get the kind of production or productivity that you want. So our aim is always to get them to school.
That proposal will soon be taken to cabinet.
It is really a matter that we are contemplating. We are going to put our heads together. We will prepare the paper. Once it is approved by cabinet, then I will say that about 8:45, that will be cut off point for school children. After that, then of course they will have to pay to travel on the transport buses. So that is an issue that we're looking at.
Several other key areas of concern to commuters, including security, are also being addressed. Kishmar Singis, CBC News.
Thanks, Kishmar. Well, Christians in Barbados heeded the call and assembled at the gates of schools across the country yesterday to pray for those institutions and the students before the start of the Michaelmas term. The event, called Meet Me at the Gates, is an initiative of Pastor Pauline Rollins of the Faith Temple Ministries International. The prayer session ran for an hour from 4 to 5 p.m. late evening at Dighton Griffith Secondary School in Christchurch. One of the coordinators, Errol Griffith, was joined by other Christians fervently praying for the island's education system.
You would endue them with your grace and power to create policies and make decisions that would make the education system relevant to the needs of a developing Barbados. Cause them to be innovative and cutting edge so that our children would be trained to develop the competence and skills to operate in a globalized world in the 21st century.
As Barbados joins the world in observing International Literacy Day, we hear that the island continues to maintain its high rating of 98% basic literacy. However, there is nothing to determine the level of functional literacy on the island. Basic literacy, according to Christina Morris, the Education Officer for Literacy and Reading, reflects access to primary education and being able to write your name or fill out a simple form. Ms. Morris says functional literacy, on the other hand, allows people to read and write critically and engage in problem solving, among other things. She believes this is one area where Barbados has challenges.
I can talk about having concerns when it comes to oral language competencies. I see a lot of that, and I think members of the public, as they listen to some of our young people, might probably agree with that one. I think we also need to pay some attention to the writing skills, and that is something we need to focus on early with our children and teach them how not only to read critically, but also to respond to reading and to write critically, and to help them to convey their ideas in a written format.
Another problem, according to President of the Barbados Association of Reading, Dr. Patricia Saul, is the challenge associated with the use of modern technology. While she embraces the tools that can advance literacy skills, she says students are having difficulty distinguishing between the language used in social media and formal writing.
I see too many instances where students are using the informal register, which is consistent with the social media, in the formal writing. So there's need for us to help children to switch codes from the informal to the formal. Additionally, I think that greater use could be made of the technology, even in terms of doing research for their classes and that kind of thing. So yes, I agree with you that the technology needs to be embraced and it needs to be taken to a higher level. It is something that we can't escape from. So I would suggest that we use it to our advantage.
Prime Minister Fendel Stewart now has first-hand knowledge of how New Zealand is using renewable energy to drive sustainable growth of its economy. Mr. Stewart, who is now on his way home, visited that country on the final leg of his overseas tour. During the two-day visit at the invitation of the New Zealand government, he saw geothermal energy in use at the Rotokawa geothermal plant via the Aratia Tia Hydro Dam. In addition, the Barbados delegation toured the Plenty Flora GNS Science joint venture company, which uses geothermal energy to heat glass houses. Mr. Stewart also held discussions with his New Zealand counterpart, Prime Minister John Key, and paid a courtesy call on the Governor-General. They discussed bilateral relations, issues related to small island developing states, and internal affairs. The trip to New Zealand came directly after the conclusion of the 3rd International Conference on Small Island Developing States held in Samoa. Police are on the hunt for 3 masked men who reportedly robbed the Esso Paynes Bay service station this morning. Lawmen say around 5 a.m. the men, one armed with a knife and the other with a gun, stormed the building and made off with an undisclosed sum of money from the cashiers on duty. There were no reported injuries. And a Christchurch man charged with murder has been remanded to Her Majesty's Prison at Dodds. This after appearing in the District B Magistrates Court today. Police say 21-year-old Cadian Romaine Chase of Silver Hill has been charged with last month's murder of 24-year-old Darren Brown. Brown of Coverley, Christchurch, died from a stab wound after being involved in a dispute around 12:30 in the morning of August 30th while at Oystons. We'll have more news ahead in just a moment, but first we want to hear from you on the question, do you think there should be a cutoff time for school children to ride the bus free? Text yes or no to short code 8111. We'll have the results for you at the end of the news.
In concert with community, in harmony with humanity, feeling the rhythm, hearing the rhyme, moving to the beat of the time. Goddard Enterprises giving back, proud to be giving back, caring and sharing and serving and giving back. Across the region, Goddard Enterprises giving back.
Hi, I'm Red Plastic Bag. Anyone who knows me knows I don't like cold. Sunshine reigns in my country. I love it.
Get your sun power.
When you are feeling a little low,
Itching and scratching,
and you feel the pain in your tummy,
you may have worms, so tell your mommy. You may even feel a little queasy. Cause you may have a runny tummy. When you feel the pain in your tummy, you may have worms, so tell your mommy.
Anyone can have worms. One dose of Centel eliminates most common intestinal worms. Deworm your family with Centel twice a year.
Barbados Workers Union General Secretary Tony Moore is telling trade unionists not to be derailed by moves to replace so-called archaic labor laws. She says if the changes in any way threaten the rights of workers, they will not receive the union support.
But many of these laws, to which there is repeated reference from some ministers of the Crown and employers, are in place only to take account of the needs of workers in terms and conditions of their employment, health, safety, and social welfare. The Congress of the Barbados Workers Union recognizes that change may be prudent in some areas, but that such change can only be supported by us where it does no injustice to our mission, which is to improve the quality of life of workers.
And it also appears that more union members are pushing for health insurance coverage. It's an issue Ms. Moore says needs urgent attention.
As an immediate assignment, you may wish to direct the new Executive Council to supplement social benefits in the area of health insurance, thereby lending direct assistance to those members who now don't have that benefit and who are asking for it.
Well, the issue of same-sex marriage could soon be at the doorstep of Barbados. That's according to Dr. Nicholas Miller, a director of the Andrews University International Religious Liberty Institute. He says the subject has gained worldwide attention and in some instances support. Dr. Miller was the featured speaker at a discussion hosted by the Family Life Department of the East Caribbean Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. He says while Barbados has laws against the act of sodomy, they are not enforced. He also points out that it wasn't that long ago when the United States had similar laws.
And though I know you still have laws on the books that criminalize the behavior, but so did we until 10 years ago in North America, right? In fact, 40 years ago, every state in the country in the United States had criminal laws against it. So in 40 years, we've gone to most states not having it criminalized, and then about 10 years ago, the Supreme Court saying you can't criminalize it. Until last year, in 1 decade, we went from the Supreme Court saying, well, you can't criminalize it. They have the freedom to this behavior between consenting adults, to saying in California, citizens cannot protect traditional marriage, and you must allow gays to marry in the state of California.
Barbadians and visitors now have the opportunity to learn more about the history of St. Andrew's Parish Church and surrounding districts. It comes as local author Dr. Sylvan Catwell launched his newest book entitled The Development and Impact of St. Andrew's Parish Church. Speaking at the church following the launch, he said the book will be beneficial to both adults and children. Dr. Catwell said the idea for the book came 7 years ago.
This parish has got a rich history, which is not told in many religious books and captured in books that were written here. You'll find some interesting things on geology of the parish, on the geography of the parish. I love environmental engineering, so I'm going to talk a little bit about why this church was preserved while other churches fail.
The next Mega 6 starting jackpot has been increased to $795,000. That's because no one has come forward to claim the almost $500,000 prize from an April Mega 6 jackpot. The beneficiaries of the Barbados Lottery decided to place the unclaimed $420,000 prize back into the Mega 6 game, increasing the starting jackpot from the usual $375,000. According to Steve Stout, president of the Barbados Olympic Association, they owe a lot to players who continue to support the games. He said by placing the unclaimed jackpot prize back into the prize pool, it is their way of saying a big thank you for playing the games. The increased starting jackpot is one-off, and after this jackpot is won, the starting figure will go back to $375,000.